Hi, it's Graeme Cox here, co-founder of OptiSurface, and I'm going to take you through our latest version 3, and the major improvements. These can be found in our release notes and our support center. First one is the new toolbar interface. We have upgraded our toolbar to new icons and additional icons. There's the major changes recently. You can, I think this was in a previous release, but you can select or memorize a certain view. So if I want to come back to that view later on, I can. So if I'm zoomed in here and I want to come to back to this view, I can just select A or B. That can be useful for coming back to an exact view that you wanted. These are normal. This is our toggling points on and off. We've had this feature for a while, but it wasn't a toolbar button. But you can basically flick from two different surfaces. So if I want to flick from proposed to existing, backwards and forth, I can just press that button. It's the last two layers that were pressed over here. So I can just flick backwards and forth. I can also just press tab and do the same thing. So if I wanted to do, say, cut fill map and existing topography like that, I'm just pressing the tab key now because I've selected these two surfaces last. So it's just toggling backwards and forth there. We have the drainage analysis, runoff analysis, and furrow irrigation analysis now with toolbar buttons. We have some buttons for drawing our polygons, zones, circles for pivots, and our normal zones for boundaries and subzones. We can also draw break lines straight from the toolbar button. This toggles break lines on and off the off the proposed topography. So if I zoom in, if I turn that on, you can see the break lines are triangulated into the proposed surface. If I turn that off, they're not. That surface actually goes straight over the top there. There's certain applications for that, but most time you can leave that on. Okay, our cross-section tool, our long section tool is very useful. We have added a button to draw a polyline, a profile now. So if I want to draw a profile through here for some reason, then that's the profile there, and that is saved under this part of the tree here. So I can flip that direction so that it actually goes the other way from left to right here. There's a flip button here as well. You can't see. Same thing. I can actually move that, which this is pretty cool because as you move this, the window down the bottom updates every second or so. Measure is pretty standard. We've got a multi-measure tool, and that'll show us the length, elevation, change, slope, and then if we can enter a width and a height, say for a levee bank that you're building or road that you want to build, and then it'll calculate the volume there. We can update the size of those by right-clicking here, properties, so I want it 7. Contour banks, okay. So this new feature you can see under here, contour bank design. Say I want to put a contour bank along this area here because there's runoff happening down here and there's erosion. So contour bank you could put on a target slope. So say I want 0.1%. I'm going to calculate a point every 10 meters. I'm going to look at the existing topography. This is a tolerance that you can allows you to keep the contour bank straighter as long as it's within this tolerance of cutting and filling. So let's say I want to start, I want to go this way. So you can see there it's within the tolerance, so it's kept it straight through. Well, it's kept it straighter, I should say. Okay, and if you look at the slope, it's 0.1%. Post-survey check. So yeah, we've got a new feature where you can import an as-built topography. So once you've done your landforming, and in some parts of the world they like to resurvey the finished field and check that the field is within a certain tolerance, you can basically do that here, import the topography, then you can recalculate the same landform design over the top of that new topography, and so then you can look at the earthworks remaining and see if it's within a tolerance that's acceptable. Okay, the next one is earthworks volumes for a subzone. So yeah, we have added a option where you can, so let's draw a subzone around here. If I want to know the earthworks within that subzone, so let me tick on, so I can click that, I can calculate the area, I can calculate the volumes. So that'll tell us the earthworks volumes within that subzone. And we've also added a feature where you can do a lot of more things with these subzones. You can move it, so I want to move that subzone over here instead, or I want to duplicate that subzone for some reason over to here, or I want to delete it. Okay, we'll come back to ditch networks. Let's just look at export break lines. So we have a new option under File, Export Break Lines if you have any break lines, and we can save that out to a shapefile. Then you can load that shapefile into a tractor guidance system, so the tractor can drive along, say, these contour banks or drain designs. So all these lines have gone out to a shapefile. The next one is for exporting a trimble.gps file from UTM coordinate systems. So when you survey with with GPS systems that aren't the Trimble field level system, the coordinates will be either saved as latitude, longitude, or eastings and northings UTM on a UTM coordinate system. And when you import and you look at project properties, you'll end up with UTM here. Local is, if it's local, that means it is that's what Trimble field level system uses, a local coordinate system. But in this field here, so all the data was latitude, longitude, and then OptiSurface Designer transforms that to eastings and northings on a UTM coordinate system. Now, when you export that to a trimble.gps file, the coordinate systems are slightly different, and this will explain it better here. So we select GPS file. I'm just going to select there. Okay, so now it's got this window, convert from UTM to local coordinates. So that's what we need to do if we're going to put this into a Trimble field level system, which is the .gps file. So it's showing we need a 1.28 degree rotation. So you click OK, yes, and it'll do it. Multi-measure tool, we've already had a look at that. Snap points. If you're drawing a new subzone, say, and you want to snap to a corner, before previous versions it would try and snap to that straight away, but that was slowing things down quite a bit. Now if I hold the shift key down, you can see that little yellow box highlighting. That means it's snapping to that point. So if you hold the shift key down, you also get these smart indicators. That's the distance and then the angle. And then if you hold the control key down, you get an angle snap. Downslope map. We have added a downslope map. The downslope is the steepest slope, whereas main slope and cross slope is with respect to the direction of this arrow. Okay, rice levee design, and it has some special technology to keep the rice levee smoother based on some tolerance. Subsurface drainage design. This is a new feature that's in beta stage of development. We've just put it out there just to play around, but you can actually draw in subsurface drainage pipes and optimize their depth, their diameter, delete pipes, extend them, etc. Okay, I'm just going to go through the menus and pick out any other things we've missed. So export cut fill table. This exports a text file, CSV file of just cuts and fills, which you can load into a spreadsheet to calculate balance areas and things like that. Export to OptiSurface Mobile. So you can export this file to an OSM file, which can be loaded onto an Apple device using our newly released app on the Apple Store. You can basically see the cut fill map, drainage analysis, and you can see you can move around the field with your finger and see the cuts and fills, elevations. You can also click this navigate button and actually drive around the field and it'll show your location. You can see different layers such as a cut and fill map, drainage analysis. You can send that file to someone else from here. You can look at the design report from here as well. And this button loads, goes back to the file load. So once you've exported this out of OptiSurface Designer, you can just email that to someone and they can open up that email on their device, and then the attachment, they'll have an option to open that file in the app if they have the app installed on that device. At this point we're only supporting the Apple devices because we feel it is a more reliable platform with less potential issues with different devices. Continuous orbit, this gives a bit of a wow factor for if you're presenting it somewhere. You can just put that in continuous orbit mode and it'll spin around. If you want to go back to pan mode, just click that back there. There's a lot more options under proposed topography and existing topography, where you can do a lot more things with break lines. You can delete a whole heap of break lines by polygon selecting them. You can trim break lines to another line. You can offset break lines. We have this option here where you add multiple notes at one time, so you can go into that mode there, and then I can click. Every time I click, I get that, and then when I'm finished I can go up here. That just means you don't have to go back here and click this every time. You can also hold the shift key down when you click this button up here, and it puts it in that same multi-note mode. We now allow you to rotate this background grid to whatever you want. So say I want it to line up with the edge of this field for some reason, then I can go to either Tools, Map Grid, and rotate it by 10 degrees, say. See, that lines up better. I can just double click here as well to take me to the same thing. I can also lift it up above so it sits on top. See, at the moment it sits underneath the surface, you can only see it out the side here. But say I want to take it up to 200, and now it sits on top. That can be useful for guiding subzones or things like that. You can change what size the grid is. So if I want to be 200 meter grid, I'll make it a 50 meter grid. And this is how many cells wide across here it is. So you don't have to worry about that too much. I can also change the origin. So if I wanted it to line up with, say, this bottom corner, I click here and it'll move the origin right to there. Okay, and then we have background image. So we've separated the Google Map image, which is this satellite image, from we've allowed another background image effectively. So you could say I want to import, say I've got a yield map and I want to compare it to a ponding map or anything like that. So imagine this is a yield map, even though it isn't. I can select that, and if you've got the world file, it'll import it into the right location. Now if I turn this off, you can see, so this is the image that's come in. Now it can be yield map, and then I can basically compare that to the any analysis that I've done or design I'm doing. If it doesn't come in the exact spot, you can actually right click on this image and go adjust image extents, and see as you move it, you can rubber band it basically into place. And if you read here, you can shift. If you press the shift button, you could actually adjust the corners independently, so you can rubber band it like this if it's to get really fine detail. If you don't hold the shift key down, it'll just keep it in rectangular shape. Okay, thanks for watching. Hope that's useful, and let us know if you have any questions or any ideas for improvements. We're always here to help.